Okay, good morning, everyone. Today we are giving class on the 10th of Teves, and we're continuing the Nesivos Shalom on Middos development. And we're almost finished with the second mimer. And there's certain things that a person can do in order to achieve success in Middos development, aside from lots of strong effort, to realize also there are things beyond your control, beyond your nature, and a human being is capable of rising above one's nature. And now we go to Vav, which is a more subtle one, much more subtle. Amnam, Yesh Od Derech Klalis is another overall way. These are all overall ways. There's going to be details with every midah, how you attack it. But these are just overall ways. So he says, Haderech Yishkon Ba'or, the method in which the light dwells in, Liskos L'Leiv Torah Bar L'Ekim, to merit the concept that David HaMelech says that Hashem has created me with a pure heart. Vatzas Hashem Isakum, and the advice of Hashem lasts, stays upstanding. Amar Bereshis Habriya, like it says in the beginning of creation. And the earth was devoid and empty, and the darkness over the great abyss. Vayomer Hashem, and Hashem says, let there be light, Vayihi Or, and there was light. So just that concept, think of that concept in and of itself. At the time when the earth was empty and void and dark. So then, Haya Oz Devar Hashem, and at that point, the Devar of Hashem was, Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or. God said, let there be light. There's no other way to drive out the darkness and the void and the emptiness except for the way of the penetration of light. Okay, this was the very beginning of the creation of the world, where it's not just there was a physical reality, there was darkness, there was emptiness, and God said, let there be light. But this is a conceptual concept. There's so many aspects of darkness in our lives. First of all, the Medrash says that these four adjectives of darkness are reflecting the four exiles. And again, and what can dispel the negativity of the exile? It's the light. It's the light. And we know the light is, what's the ultimate light? It's the Shekhinah. It's the presence of God in a real way. That clarity dispels all the darkness. All negativity is understood in this Sovavo, v'choshech al pnei, choshech zug yavan. So how did Hashem, and we feel in our lives often that we are in Tovavo v'choshech al pnei. Many of us, people are lonely in our homes. They feel it's just a bunch of darkness. So there's only one way really to get rid of the darkness, and that's with the light. And therefore, how about with our terrible middos? They create all kind of darkness around us. So the universal antidote to all darkness is a lack of clarity, a lack of understanding. So therefore, and this is the same thing with every human being who is an olam katan. Every human being is a micro universe. So if God created the macro universe in a way of darkness, and only light could change it, and that was the beginning of the changes. There were many changes that happened after Vayihi Or. That was the first of many changes. So the first of many changes in a human being who comes into this world, we all come in empty, void, choshech al pnei hatahom. So it's the same thing. Umurkov mikoch hashamayim chelek elokai mimal v'nefesh elokin shochenes b'kirbo. that a person's a combination of a heavenly realm, that's one part, from a divine soul, and the Shekhinah that's inside the person. Umikochos artziim, and on the other hand, he has physical, earthly forces. Hanefesh habahamis hashochenes b'tocho, the animalistic soul that resides inside the person. V'akochas habahamis, and the animalistic forces. Ubebechinas sovo v'choshech, and with the aspects of darkness and void. Hainu kol amidos arose. That's all the midos rose. V'yetzer leva adam aramin arav. And as the pasuk says, the evil inclination of a person from his youth. We're all born as vildachayas. Now, see, if we don't accept it as a given, then we're in major trouble. Most people, our parents said we're amazing, we're wonderful, we're great, we're this and that. I don't think they should say we're a bunch of vildachayas, although our teachers always called us vildachayas, wild animals. But you got to realize you are one. And if you don't think you are one, then you're not human. So you're born with a tremendous amount of darkness. So atzas Hashem bishvilo, the only solution for such a person, the solution of the godly solution, is as it says, Vayomer Elokim yehi or, God said, let there be light. Shor Elokuso yisparach yor es kol hamachashachim. The light of Hashem illuminates all the darkness. V'yachtor bechol pnimiyuso, and it penetrates all the inner parts. Ubesoch kol mamakei acheshchos, and all the places of darkness. V'osma'at or doche choshen harbe, a lot of light dispels, a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness. As we heard last night from Rabbi Jacobson, he says, how do you get rid of dark? You do not take a stick and beat it. That does not dispel any darkness. You only can dispel darkness with a little bit of light. That's it. That's the light that will dispel the darkness. Mekor v'choshech amidos aros. What's the source of bad midos? A person is in the darkness of soul and a constrainment of intellect. The human intellect is not working as it should be. Where people are controlled by midos and they don't have the brains, the awareness to overcome it. And then that spiritual soul that the person has, okay, it goes and it gets weaker. If the darkness is great, your spirit is weak. The animalistic soul gets stronger. The person is not in control. He's given up to even try to improve his midos. Ukoloshen al-pasuk, as the pasuk says, Toshes choshech, you brought darkness, you made darkness, vayhi laila, and it's dark, it's night. Bo tirmos kol chayos hayar, and there creeps all the wild animals of the forest. And who are the wild animals? Who's the wildest animal you have? Is your bad midos. The animalistic soul of the human is just like an animal. Can't raise his head. The animal keeps his head down. His eyes are always down. Yabit. It doesn't see the light. All animals are created looking down. And therefore, the animal soul can't see anybody else. It's looking down. How can you see anybody else? You're in a situation with another person and you only see yourself. You don't bother seeing anybody else. There's another person that you love right in front of them, right in front of you. And your midos hurt them. And then you say, I'm sorry. So that doesn't help. You're lucky if you say you're sorry, right? But the animalistic soul wasn't built to help others. Not only to not see others, and all the more so, not even to think about others. The only time you think of others, unless you get a benefit from it. But you're always looking at yourself. Animal is a sense of survival. You are thinking of yourself only. That's the view of a person with bad middos, that the animalistic soul controls him. He only sees himself. Every situation in life, the determining factor is what's in it for me. And that's all that matters. You get married, what's in it for me? I have a cook, I have a cleaning lady, I have a baby maker, and a sex toy. That's what's for me. You only think about yourself. That's what bad middos are all about. And guess what comes out of that? Any threat to you don't like. So therefore, what comes out of such an animal? Jealousy and hatred to others. Because it appears to him because he thinks everybody is contending with him and putting him in the shade. To the point where he's only evil all day long. That's bad middos. Is the beginning of the Torah. That's what it's saying. Choshech al pnei tahom. That's what life's about. But if you allow the light of Hashem to penetrate, as the pasuk says, the light shines, the sun shines. The light now illuminates all the dark parts of his soul. As we already explained, the pasuk Hashem tells Moshe to tell the Jews right before he gives them the Torah to show the great love that he has for them. Hashem says, "Atem ra'isam, you saw. Kimina shamayim dibarti bachem. I spoke to you from the heavens." That's right after the Torah, rather. I'm sorry, right after he gave the Torah. I'm sorry. I spoke from the heavens. You saw I spoke from the heavens. So the obvious question is, what does it matter if Hashem spoke from the heavens or from the earth? Hashem spoke to them. What does it mean? I spoke to them. Just so you saw that I spoke to you. What are you going to say, Mina Shamayim? But the explanation is, from a heavenly viewpoint, I spoke to you. I spoke to you heavenly instructions for living, not physical instructions that some philosopher who's not perfect has given you. And from a heavenly vision, I illuminated you with my words. How's that? What did the Torah give you? How to view from the heavenly abode on this lowly earth. And to see all the lusts that people of this world are so sunk in, their whole essence is completely sunken in. In other words, where do you think secular philosophy comes from? It comes from the slime pits of this earth. And the philosophy is slimy. Can't be any different. Because as great, as smart as a philosopher, he can't get out of his own personal needs. And his philosophy will be based on what he thinks, which is full of slime. But Hashem, who's from a pure and pristine place of heaven, he's giving you the honest evaluation of how to look at this world. And that's what the pasuk says, hey, rimu mibatchem, lift up your gaze. What does that mean? You want to have a vision. That's a great heavenly and holy vision that's never ending. And when you look up, you will see the creator within creation. Shubarel, he created it all. And then take a look and measure the value. The zero value that everything in this world has, and all the pleasures and all the lusts, compared to the infinite value of the spiritual world. Compare the infinite benefits of heavenly existence. No amount of physicality can equal one drop of spirituality. Urichsiv, and as David Melech says, Ki when I see your heavens, my setzvosecha, the act of your fingers, Yerech v'kochavim, the moon and the stars, Asher konanta, which you have established, Ma enosh kisis grena, what is man that you should mention him? What does that mean? He's bainanus, the reflection. Sha'adam is bainin varoas gadlus abaris barach. When a person reflects sees the greatness of Hashem, motzio somitach shiflos hamidus roshvo. It takes him out of the lowness of the evil middos. Sheshrashim hu ka'amar, because the sources, as we said, minefesh habahamis, the animalistic soul, asher kol mabata tzimtzum v'katnus hadas, that its whole vision is just constricted and a smallness of understanding, where he can't see anything beyond himself and his needs. Therefore, the person is so sunken in his bad middos. And if a person will only lift up his vision to see the divine light, he'd immediately see the worthlessness of the bad middos. Then he would mamish lift up before Hashem and act in such an approach. This is a key. You got to get out of the darkness, and that's why Yiddishkeit makes such a big idea of hadlakas neiros. That's what it's all about. Hadlakas neiros, where man is given the opportunity to bring light. So many important times in life where that's what the light is all about. That's why we started Maseches Psachim, or la'arbos or bodki mesaner. On the night of the 5th of the 14th, you check with the nair, with the lamp. And what do you check? You check all the crevices. You check all. Why? And they say, why? Why don't we check in the day? Because you can only see the chametz in the night with the light. That's the point. The light is much more glaring in the night than it is in the day. For daylight. My middos will change when daylight comes. When something comes, tomorrow it'll be better when the sun shines. But you can't find the things in the crevices in the day. It's dafka when it's dark. And now you look with a heavenly look. You could see all the things that are there, all those middos. And that's what we're coming today, Erev Shabbos. Erev Shabbos, the Yemei Chol, the weak days, the days that are weak. Why are they weak? Because the animal is in charge for 6 days. The animal is in charge for 6 days. Your middos, Rose, they're running the show to such a point where the enemy is able to surround us and lay siege upon us. Lay siege upon us means, and you can't grow. So on this day of the 10th of Teves, where we are besieged and we are in quarantine and we're stuck in the darkest time of our lives, the longest night is today. The longest night, Christmas. The longest darkness can't get any darker. And how much we've been influenced by Christmas. As much as you don't believe in Christmas, your middos ros are as goyish as a goyish middos. So that's what we have to have a Asar B'Teves for. And you hope that the conclusion of the tshuva that we're doing is what? You'll light the candles to bring in the Shabbos. Lighting those candles are saying Shabbos is a day of light, a day where we can rise higher than that of an animal. But you got to make the right efforts to prepare for Shabbos, to bring that light. So Mirza Shem should be zoicha to be able to understand, and that light really only comes from Torah. To really look and to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to see there's a heavenly realm, as we're learning every afternoon, when we're learning about how to do things with a godly way of doing things. View everything in a godly way and realize that's the emes, then you see how foolish it is to be jealous, how foolish it is to think only about yourself. That itself should motivate you to want to change. If you've seen that heavenly light, and once you've seen it, you can't deny its reality. So Kadosh Baruch Hu should help us to get this heavenly view that only comes from studying Torah and looking at the world the way Hashem wants us to look at the world. Okay, that ends that point. We have one more point for next week, and Hashem will finish the second essay at that time. Shkoyach, sorry for being a little late today.
So, when we are bringing the Shabbat early,